To my old brown earth and to my old blue sky, I'll now give these last few molecules of I. And you who sing, and you who stand nearby, I do charge you not to cry. Guard well our human chain. Watch well you keep it strong. As long as sun will shine. And this our home, keep pure and sweet and green. For now I'm yours, and you are also mine.
Thank you, Michael. Up in our bell tower, we have this week Jen Bottomley ready to ring our bell. Oh, and we just need you. There we go. Jen, we need you to turn your camera on so I can spotlight you.
Oh, is the camera on?
Yeah.
Welcome to our sanctuary, which is filling up more each week by live parishioners, as well as our digital sanctuary on Zoom. My name is Jennifer Buchwald, and my namesake wife, Jennifer, and I have been coming for a dozen years now. Many thanks to Deanna Wong, who is our camera person today, and to Tom Kydell, who is our Zoom usher, and Jennifer Bottomley for ringing the bell this morning, and Reverend Joe for creating an awesome thug for the winter fair, which you can sign up for online. Those of you who are here in person, we ask that you keep your mask on at all times while indoors. The worship leaders may take off their masks. I can't see.
You need assistance? You got it.
There we go. May take off their masks at the mic. Yes, right. I can take it off. When distanced from others, depending on their own comfort level. People of all ages are welcome to move about in the sanctuary as they need to, and coloring sheets are available at either entryway. Children's programming for elementary school age kids will begin today after our time for all ages. Our childcare provider, Abby, is available to accompany nursery age children to our nursery room in the parish hall anytime. As we begin our service today, we acknowledge that our church was built on ancestral land of the Massachusetts people. We acknowledge the devastating legacy of settler colonism and the continued harm done to Indigenous groups in our community and beyond. May our commitment to justice, equity, and compassion call us to take meaningful restorative action to honor and protect the land and all her people. We come together to recognize and celebrate the gift of life for ourselves and for all the creatures with whom we share this planet, for the miracle of every breath, with wonder in our joys and compassion in our sorrows. We'd like to offer a moment for those joining us remotely to greet those who are joining us in person. So AV folks, could you please put our sanctuary screen in gallery view so we can see our offsite congregation? Folks joining us on Zoom, we can see you in the sanctuary now. So give us a wave if you'd like. And folks in the sanctuary, the camera is actually behind you just below the clock.
Yeah, they
So
can't see us yet, but trust the whole sanctuary is waiting.
Let's give a big wave.
Keep going. There you go.
Back of the room.
Thank you, Deanna.
Oh, wait a minute, there's more.
You can go to the next paragraph.
Oh,
Sorry.
here we go.
Yeah.
Technology is a wonderful creation. It's good to be together. We invite all of you to bring your perspectives, your beliefs and doubts, and all that is unique and wondrous about you to our service in the spirit of love. All are welcome here. If you're new to Theater Parker Church or are visiting today, we'd love to stay in touch. You're invited to fill out the connection card, which will give you an opportunity to sign up for our weekly updates and help us welcome you. A link to the connection card will be in the chat, as well as our contact information. Those joining us here in the sanctuary are encouraged to fill in the contact card you'll find in the pews. She's not here to tell
Wave
her
it.
story. Within the bright yellow pamphlet. We hope that each of you will find some comfort to carry with you over the week and some challenge for your thoughts. As always, we wish for each of you health, well-being, daily curiosity, and a sense of peace and awe. As our pianist extraordinary, Yukiko Takagi, brings us into worship with Johann Sebastian Bach's Allemande A from French Suite No. 3, we bid you welcome.
Thank you, Yukiko. Good morning, everyone. Death ends a life. It does not end a relationship. This is wisdom shared in the memoir Tuesdays with Morrie. As we find ourselves in the time of year in which many cultures remember those who have died, be it through All Souls Day, All Saints Day, Samhain, or Dia de los Muertos, we take time today here to honor and connect with our own beloved dead. As I thought about this topic, I realized there is just no comprehensive sermon that I could possibly write that would speak to a universal experience of how we maintain relationships with those who have died. Every relationship is unique. But I do know that love lives on through the ways that we remember those who have died, the way we honor their legacies, and the ripples that they've made through their presence in this world, which we may never know. Today, we'll be reflecting on the ways that we stay connected with those who have died, be they quite distant ancestors or our closest beloveds. Two congregants, Marcia Feldman and Allison Bayer, have graciously agreed to share their reflections in today's service, for which I'm very grateful. We'll hear from them a little later on. And a number of you have shared with me personally the ways that love has lived on in your life. I was struck that two people shared with me that you keep your connections going with loved ones through plants, whether it's seeing plants that departed friends have given you come alive again in the spring, or having quiet conversations in your heart as you do your gardening with a dear friend with whom you used to pick strawberries. It's a place where you can feel their presence with you. Or as you were given a prompt in a quilting class, you felt the presence of your departed mother unbidden show up with a message for you. One rabbinic colleague of mine has set up what she calls an ancestor wall in her home with photos of relatives and role models who have died. And she and her young son talk about who they were and how they inspire their lives today. Other folks write letters to loved ones who have died, and still others have delved into historical research to learn more about the life and practices of their ancestors. Later in today's service, we'll have a time of ritual where we can write the names of those we hold in our hearts and share them with one another. That'll also be a great time to add to our altar tables up here in the front and on the chalice table as we get going. Because while each person's experience of loss is individual, we are held in community as we remember. Death ends a life, but not a relationship. Love lives on. Those who have died have never, ever left. In that spirit, we'll sing our first hymn this morning, one of my favorites, Breaths. It's the first one in your teal hymnals, number 1001. The lyrics of this hymn are from the Senegalese poet and storyteller Birago Diop. It was set to music by Dr. Issei Barnwell, who's a member and musician at All Souls UU Church in Washington, D.C. The song Breaths was made famous by Dr. Barnwell's former group, Sweet Honey in the Rock. And it invites us to find the voices of our ancestors in the world around us and in the sound of the wind that goes za, whoosh, ah, whoosh. Let's join together in singing as we rise in body and spirit and raise our voices together, singing Breaths.
Listen more often to things than to beings. Listen more often to things than to beings. 'Tis the ancestors' breath when the fire's voice is heard. 'Tis the ancestors' breath in the voice of the waters. Za, whoosh, ah. Though Those who have died have never, never left. The dead are not under the earth. They are in the rustling trees. They are in the groaning woods. They are in the crying grass. They are in the moaning rocks. The dead are not under the earth. So listen more often to things than to beings. Listen more often to things than to beings. 'Tis the ancestors' breath when the fire's voice is heard. 'Tis the ancestors' breath in the voice of the waters. Those who have died have never, never left. The dead have a pact with the living. They are in the woman's breast. They are in the wailing child. They are with us in our homes. They are with us in this crowd. The dead have a pact with the living. So listen more often to things than to beings. Listen more often to things than to beings. 'Tis the ancestors' breath when the fire's voice is heard. 'Tis the ancestors' breath in the voice of the waters.
You may be seated. Thank you. Each week, we kindle our flaming chalice, the symbol of Unitarian Universalism, with words of covenant, words of shared commitment. I invite up Kathy Ware to help us lead them in English. I'll lead them in Spanish, which we say in honor of our sister community in Plazuelas, El Salvador. I invite you to join us in saying these words aloud. There's a slide for them too, I believe.
Love is the spirit of this church,
and service is its prayer. This is our great covenant, to dwell together in peace, to seek the truth in love, and to help one another. El amor es el espíritu de esta iglesia, y el servicio es nuestra oración. Esta es nuestra gran promesa, vivir juntos en paz, buscar la verdad con amor y ayudarnos los unos a los otros. Kathy. Rose has a time for all ages for us, telling us about these altars.
Thank you all so much for contributing to these beautiful collective altars. I hope that all of you, while you're here this morning, have a chance to come over, look at the photos taken, the mementos that people brought in. There's a real potency to both of these spaces. And for the kids here today, special welcome. We're going to be building our own altar together in Children's Chapel and talking more about who the ancestors are, why we stay connected with them, and how altars can be a part of that. First, I want to tell you all a little bit about altars and my relationship with them. So altar building, particularly altar building to honor those who have died, is a practice as old as human culture. You may be familiar with ancestral shrines in traditional Chinese culture, the overflowing ofrendas of Mexican Day of the Dead celebrations. The examples are endless. I'm not an expert in the history or practices of every kind of ancestor altar, so I'm not going to try to list them all or teach you all something that any of you may know just as much or more about than I do. And I think sometimes when we're learning about and from spiritual practices that are not necessarily our own or from our own culture, we can get a little bit too in our heads, or at least I can. We can think that we have to know everything there is about this kind of spiritual practice before we can try to engage with it ourselves. So instead of doing that and bringing us all into our heads, I want to share a little bit about the only thing that I'm actually an expert in, my own spiritual life and my own practices, in the imperfect ways that I've come to engage with ancestor altars in my life. Building an ancestor altar was one of the first things that I did after my mom died. I'd heard of them before. I'd even considered making one in the past, but it wasn't until I really needed it, until I really needed a physical place and I could hold my love for my mother and my need to stay connected with her, that I decided to make one. It started very simple. Just a nice cloth on the top of a bookshelf, a few candles, photos of my mom. Over time, it's grown to include photos of my grandmothers and other ancestors I feel connected to, symbols of the cultural lineages that I carry, and vessels to hold offerings. Every morning, when I make my morning tea, I pour a little bit of that tea into a cup on my altar and say gratitude blessing. Sometimes when I make a meal I'm particularly proud of, I put a little bit on the altar too, so that I can feel like I'm sharing something nourishing with all of the ancestors who have made my life possible. I put stones, fallen leaves, flowers, whenever it feels right. And no matter how I'm doing on any given week, I make sure that I take time to sit there, light a few candles, feel into the connection that I have with my mother and all those who came before us, all of the unnamed millions of ancestors whose life made my life possible. My practice isn't perfect or complete. I'm sure that it'll change and grow over time, but it's one of the main things that's kept me grounded and feeling whole through the never-ending journey of my grief. If you've ever thought of creating an altar in your own home, temporary or permanent altars, both can be wonderful. I hope that you take this as an encouragement to try it out, see what it offers you. If you already do have an altar practice of any variety, I would love to hear more about it, what it is for you, how it feeds you. As I said at the beginning, I believe that having altars or other practices to ground us in connection with our beloved dead, with any who we have loved and lost, is as ancient as human culture is. It is our birthright to find ways of maintaining connection with those who are most meaningful to us. Thank you all for holding this sacred practice with me, for holding some of my story in this beloved community. As Michael leads us in our children's benediction, for you shall go out in joy, I invite the children of our community to join me in the parish hall for Children's Chapel.
For you shall go out in joy, for you shall go out in joy, and come back in peace, and come back in peace. Blessed be.
Generosity is a spiritual practice in our Unitarian Universalist congregations. We give to remind ourselves of how many gifts we have to offer. We give to remember that we are a part of something bigger than ourselves. We give because we believe in music and sacred space. We give with the faith that together we have enough. Links to donate will be in the chat, or you can take a meditative moment writing out a check and sending it to the church after the service. Ushers will be coming around the sanctuary to collect an offering from those in the pews who wish to donate something more tangible. As Yukiko shares yet another piece of dynamic music with Bach, Sarabande from his French Suite No. 3, an offering to sustain this congregation of memory and hope will be gratefully received. Thank you.
Thank you, Yukiko. I welcome up Marcia Feldman and Allison Bayer, who will be sharing their own reflections on connections in their life. There will be a brief musical interlude in between the two of them so we can take a few breaths and reflect. So grateful to both of you for sharing your stories.
Grief is a natural reaction to loss, and we all experience it differently. When I have lost those closest to me, my experience of grief is one of feeling like my heart has been blown wide open. As excruciating as it is, it can also be an oddly rich time when we feel everything deeper. We cry deeper, we cry harder, we laugh harder. When I'm in that raw state, I do the best I can to allow the feelings to come and go as they will, just riding the waves of grief. I think of it as hanging 10 on my own little emotional surfboard, doing whatever I can to hold on and stay afloat as the sadness ebbs and flows. When my father died suddenly from a stroke many years ago, it took me a year of dreaming of getting to say goodbye to him, to make peace with the fact that I didn't get to. Interestingly, at the exact time that he passed, I felt his spirit leave like a wind had swept through me, even though we were hundreds of miles away from each other, proving in my mind that we're all connected by invisible threads. Then when my mother died after a long, slow, debilitating decline from dementia, I was with her in her last days and got to say my goodbyes. They were very different circumstances. Her death was a merciful release from suffering she had endured for nearly 20 years. And his was an abrupt, unexpected rupture of the fabric of our family. It's not always possible or easy to accompany people on their journey as they leave this life. But when we can witness the transition from life to death, it can help us accept and honor it on a very deep level. One way that I keep their memories alive is by having a ritual of lighting a candle on the anniversary of their passing or their birthday. Ritual is so important to get us through major life transitions, like the loss of a parent, child, spouse, or dear friend. I take a breath and think of them with gratitude as the candle illuminates the memory of their spirits. When I prepare a dish that my mother loved and see her handwriting on the recipe card, it makes me smile with the memory of her. Or when I hear a piece of music that was my father's favorite, I'm reminded of his love. Working with people at the end of life for nearly 30 years, I have observed many ways that people keep the memory of their loved ones alive. It can be by donating to an organization that was meaningful to that person, or starting a scholarship program in their name to spread the love to someone in need. It could be as simple yet meaningful as sponsoring a park bench inscribed with their name in a beautiful place they love to walk, or volunteering at a hospice that cared for them as a way of paying it forward. There are many creative ways to take the deep sadness of loss, move through it to a place of peace, and transform the aching darkness of grief into light by honoring the person we love. Our love doesn't magically go away when they are no longer physically here with us. It is our challenge to find ways to keep the love alive.
When I think about how I stay connected to Nancy, my wife who died 3.5 years ago, first, I have to tell you about her. Nancy was sequentially passionate about everything she did. She was a teacher of writing and literature, a photographer, an activist, a leader of her faculty union, and sarcastically funny, full of ideas. A Texan who moved to New England for me, her Yankee swap parties, her election parties, where she created an all faiths prayer corner every time, and her love of music and good barbecue were all legend. We were together for 32 years, and in the span of 6 short months, she was gone after a startling cancer diagnosis. And now that I've told you just a sliver of who she was, I have to talk about grief because it is so huge. Grief changes you on a cellular level, and I was unprepared for her death. The grief was full on, grab you by the throat and choke you kind of grief. Death is a great separator. A veil comes down and a voice goes quiet. I think of it as there was before and there is after. My life story got split into 2 parts, and the second part was totally unknown and totally all-encompassing. It probably sounds strange, but to stay in connection with Nancy after she died, I had to get into relationship with grief, respect it, and follow it wherever it led me. At the beginning, my connection with Nancy was through her absence. Nancy was missing in all the places and ways that I could predict, and in so many that I could never have imagined. It felt like our connection was permanently broken, endlessly roaring in its silence. There were so many anniversaries of the first time she wasn't there for something, and so many times when the emptiness of the normal daily connections hit me. Nancy loved popcorn. Who would think I would start crying in the aisle in Roach Brothers when I walked by the popcorn and didn't buy any? Megan Devine, a therapist who works with people in grief and who wrote a book that for me was kind of life-saving called It's Okay That You're Not Okay. And thank you, Dave Gologly, for telling me about this book. Megan Devine says, "We grieve because we love. Grief is part of love." Nancy said when she was asked just 2 weeks before she died if she was afraid of dying, "It's just all about love now." So I've created some rituals to hold her as part of sitting in the grief and honoring our love. Her birthday was in August, and so that on the first birthday after she died, with some of our very close friends, we had one of Nancy's favorite meals and then took some of her ashes at sunset to Herring Cove in Provincetown, where she loved to go. We have done that every birthday since then, and she shows up for us every time in the sunset every year. She died on Valentine's Day, a classically dramatic Nancy move. And every February 14th, I walk in Forest Hill Cemetery, where we walked all the dogs we had over 32 years and where she loved to go to take photographs of birds. Part of connecting and keeping her in the world has been about including our community who also miss her. Early on, many friends gathered together and we planted a tree in her memory, everyone putting some of her ashes in the ground. And then we ate her favorite foods and told Nancy stories, laughing and remembering her. I share her when I see some of her dearest friends who chose a piece of her jewelry wearing it. By sorting her treasure, her zillions of boxes of family letters and photos, and then giving them to her nephew and to her cousins who are happy to have these pictures of their own parents and grandparents. I've organized several installations of her photography, but I feel the most important thing I've done was incorporate her animal and bird photography into a very special Great Aunt Nancy's ABC book that I made for the great nephew she would adore, but who was born after she died and whom she will never hold. It can be really hard to stay in connection the way I want to. The rituals work sometimes, but not always. Grief just isn't all packaged up. Even writing this was difficult. It brings up what is missing for me every day, but that's the truth of it. It goes up and down and in and out, sweetness and pain, grief and love, all mixed up together. One of the best ways I stay connected to Nancy is when a friend tells me that how much they miss her or that something reminded them of her and they laughed. Ask me about her and keep telling me those Nancy stories because I love hearing those connections you have to her too. Soon after Nancy died, Nancy Wilbur gave me a book of blessings by Jan Richardson called Cure for Sorrow, about how holding love and loss together are the connection. I think Richardson's words say it best, and I say them every night to Nancy. I hold your heart in my heart that you hold. Thanks for letting me connect here with Nancy today.
Thank you, Allison and Marcia, so much for sharing your vulnerability and your love so courageously. Holding those stories and our own stories in our hearts, let's sing our centering hymn, Comfort Me, which was written by UU choral director Mimi Bornstein. It's in your Teal hymnals as number 1002. Its simple lyrics are a call for comfort and for presence as they lead us into a time of contemplative ritual together. I invite us to rise in body, spirit, or voice as we sing with Michael.
Comfort me, comfort me, comfort me, oh my soul. Comfort me, comfort me, comfort me, oh my soul. Sing with me, sing with me, sing with me, oh my soul. Sing with me, sing with me, sing with me, oh my soul. Dance for me, speak for me, speak for me, oh my soul. Speak for me, speak for me, speak for me, oh my soul. Dance with me, dance with me, dance with me, oh my soul. Dance with me, dance with me, dance with me, oh my soul. Comfort me, comfort me, comfort me, oh my soul. Comfort me, comfort me, comfort me, oh my soul.
You may be seated. I invite us now into a time of meditation and of ritual as we name those whom we remember today, our friends, family, and fellow congregants, but perhaps also the ancestors whose presence you want to call into our sacred space. Those of you here in person will be invited to come to one of two stations, one up here and one in the back corner over by that exit. Well, there's exit signs everywhere, over by the stones, where we have a wall of remembrance. And our gratitude goes to Nancy Wilbur, who suggested this ritual. You can take Post-its, which are at this table and that table, and write the names of those who are on your mind and heart, and then stick them on the wall. Those of you who are on Zoom, you're invited to put names in the chat, and I have Post-its here. I will write them down and place them on the wall as well. As we go around putting our names up, I invite you also to take in the names that others have posted, take in the altars, add anything to it you wish, either here or up at the chalice table. You're welcome to walk right up here and look up close at the chalice table too. Let's take a deep breath and remember. I share now in words that were crafted by our caring ministry team last year. We are here to name and honor those beloved ones who have died, those friends and family that we each hold in our hearts. We're also here to honor those beloved ones from within our congregation who have touched us and who we have mutually loved. Those that have been a part of our lives and, though gone, remain a part of our lives, but in a different way. We pause in this time set aside to share the names and faces of those whose lives have touched ours in ways large and small. We do this because we know that we are made and held whole in and through our relationship. An invisible thread knits us together. Those whom we have loved are in every fiber of our lives. In the melody of piano keys, suspended under unison choir, in iris petals flowering in our TPC garden and in gardens beyond, laughter and conversation floating up from the sofa in the narthex, here in shared rides to appointments and among generous hands for mutual aid, in the wafting scents of offered meals, during creative play with crayons and colored pencils, birthing creative collaborations, between and through muffled masks, in the values passed down and in the generations who live on. Even if you never met the people whose names we will write, they live in you too. And know this, beloveds, that one day you will be named and remembered with love. This place and we people have been formed by these beloved ones. Let us now open our hearts as we share the names of our loved ones and ancestors gone, but not forgotten. They are with us still. We invite you up. These papers will be collected and held in a sacred vessel. And if they fall, it's okay. We can try and stick them back up, but maybe we can consider it like the falling leaves. I close our time of ritual with these words from Reverend Leslie Takahashi. In the daily weave of our lives, those who have died are still strong, guiding threads. Theirs is the golden glimmer, or perhaps the brilliant red, or the melancholy blue. Still, they are a part of the whole cloth of our lives. They are the ancestors, the goers before. Through this, we know immortality. In the hour-to-hour rush of our daily tasks, they travel with us through something they taught us, which is now ours to do. Through something they loved, which is now ours to carry out. Through something we shared, which is now ours alone and yet not. Through this, we know immortality. In the minute-to-minute grasp of where we are, we remember the joys our departed gave us, which opened us to hope. The sorrows we knew together, which taught us strength. The life shared, which is now ours to steward. Through this, we know immortality. In the second-to-second pulse of life, we sense the spirit of those who we have loved and lost. This presence is too shy for naming, too amorphous for full knowing, and yet as real as the days we shared. Through this, we know immortality. They are more than remembered. They are memory itself. For what we love lives on in the ways our beloved dead accompany us through our life. Their words and wisdom guide us. Their humor, our relief. Their restless concern for the world, our charge. Through this, we know immortality. May their memories be a blessing to us all. Amen. Our closing hymn is a traditional All Saints Day one, sort of, with, a UU take on it. It's in the Gray Hymnals, number 103, For All the Saints. It's a hymn that's adapted from a much longer Anglican hymn. When we sing the word saint here, you might think of any ancestor who has lived a life of purpose, service, and love. I know I have framed art in my office of those I consider my saints, Mr. Rogers and Jim Henson. So, whoever those are for you, let them guide you. So with this hymn, we call upon their legacy and inspiration to help us live a good life. Let's join now in singing this grand hymn. I invite you to rise in body or spirit.
For all the saints who from their labors rest, who thee by faith before the world confess, thy name most holy be forever blessed. Alleluia, alleluia. Thou wast their rock, their shelter, and their might, their strength and solace, well fought fight. Thou in the darkness deep, their one true light. Alleluia, alleluia. Oh, blessed communion of the saints divine, we live in struggle, they in glory shine. yet all are one in thee, for all are thine. Alleluia, alleluia. And when the strife is fierce, the conflict long, steals on the ear the distant triumph song, and hearts are brave again and arms are long. Alleluia, alleluia.
Thank you. You may have a seat. A few invitations and announcements to share ways to engage in the life of this church beyond our Sunday morning gatherings. First, a thank you to all who came to last night's Halloween concert and joined in for some spooky, mischievous fun. It was really lovely to have this place as a venue and to have Theodore Parker Church present. I want to share that we raised about $450 to be split between our church and Beyond Boston, supporting immigrants to the Boston community. So thank you for all of your generosity. And if you didn't come but you still want to contribute, you can donate online on our TPC website and put Halloween show in the notes. Even if you weren't there, the offering will be split between the church and Boston Immigration Justice Accompaniment Network. Following the service, we'll have a coffee hour over in the parish hall, which you can reach through these doors, either up the stairs or around through the driveway for a step-free route. We'll also have a breakout room online for those who want to share on Zoom and connect that way. Coming on up, and Deanna, if you're able to put up the slide, that'd be great. I know you're doing 3 things at once. That'd be wonderful. This coming Saturday, somehow we are already getting into November, but on Saturday, November 5th from 10 to 1 on Zoom, the Ministerial Search Committee will host a Beyond Categorical Thinking workshop. This is offered by the Unitarian Universalist Association as part of our search for a new settled minister. Beyond Categorical Thinking, or BCT, workshops are specifically designed for congregations who are doing a ministerial search. The search committee invites all congregational leaders, members, and friends to participate. So that is all of you, even if you're here for the first time. It'll be facilitated by the UUA, and it's a chance to promote inclusive thinking, to help us uncover our biases, and help prevent unfair discrimination in the search process for a new minister. There's an announcement with more details about this in the e-news, the newsletter, this past Thursday, as well as an email sent out to members and friends. Both of those have the Zoom link that you'll need to, they'll have the link you need to register for the BCT workshop. Any questions, you can contact a member of the ministerial search team in person or email ministersearch@tparkerchurch.org. You can also always contact the office and they'll get you in touch with the right people. Next, the following day on Sunday, November 6th, will be the first meeting of a group we're calling The Starting Point. This is a group for both newcomers and those who just are looking to refresh their connection with their church, who've been attending for any amount of time. The chance for kind of a small group ministry in which we share our spiritual journeys, learn more about Unitarian Universalist history and theology, and learn more about different ways for being connected with the church. So if you are brand new and thinking of becoming a member now, if you joined as a member in a recent cohort this past spring, but didn't get a chance to do this kind of in-depth delving, sorry to use the word depth twice in one sentence, or you've been here for a long time and are like, you know what, I really want to refresh this, please drop me an email. You'd be most welcome to come. It'll be at least 2 sessions on the 6th and the 20th. It's a curriculum that was designed to be 4 sessions. I'm trying to figure out how to condense it. So at least those 2, and then we'll stay tuned for more. And finally, it's just 3 weeks until our winter fair. I want to give just a brief update from the team. Thank you to all of those volunteers who have signed up on Sign Up Genius. It's the latest iteration of how we're getting folks' registration all in one place. It was mentioned in the last newsletter, and that link you'll see each week. We do still need folks to sign up to help on both Friday and Saturday, the 18th and 19th, with setup, and with schlepping heavy tables, but not that heavy, schlepping tables, setting things up, staffing tables as a volunteer, hanging up flyers, all of those things. This morning, you can talk to Carol Allen. Carol, can you give a wave? Thank you during coffee hour if you have any questions. We'll have raffle baskets this year headed up by Nancy Wilbur. Nancy, if you want to give a wave, I know you're here somewhere too. I thought, never mind. No? Okay. When you can email her. We are still looking for donations, raffle worthy items you might have, or gift cards from stores or restaurants. If you have items to donate for the fair or are willing to ask a vendor to donate a gift card or have ideas for a themed basket, you can contact Nancy Wilbur. So far, basket items include pets. I'm spearheading that one. I'm pretty excited. Themes about food or kitchen, chocolate, or relax and love your body. Any of those are juicy ideas for creating a little gift basket. And for those with youngsters or those who want to invite family, friends, or neighbors to come, there will also be a table that Rose is spearheading at the fair with children's craft activities for give the kids something to do so the grownups can shop around, and they'll be right up on the stage, right within eyesight, but with something to do. So just want you to spread the word far and wide for the winter fair and to sign up to help out. It's going to be all hands on deck for a great time and hopefully a great fundraiser for the church. All right, I believe that concludes our announcements, and therefore I offer these closing words with words from Leah Dorland Jones. For those who came before us, we offer gratitude and thanks. May their memories be a blessing. May we feel surrounded by their love. As we go forth from this time and place, let us be inspired by their courage, their wisdom, and their dreams. Let us honor them by doing the work of living boldly, loving mightily, and creating heaven on earth. So may it be, and amen.